Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour.
Hello again, everyone. After a 150-mile drive on Friday, August 20th, Carol, Jasper, and I are now in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You might not be able to see it on this map, but most of our drive was on Interstate 68 through northern Maryland. Gettysburg wasn't the final battle of the Civil War, nor was it the first, but it was the battle that turned the tide of the Civil War. Until Gettysburg, the Confederates were in the lead. But the decisive battle in Gettysburg allowed the Union Army to change the course of history. 1863 was the middle of the Civil War. Neither side had made significant progress toward ending this bloody conflict. In June 1863, Confederate General Robert E. Lee decided it was time to do something drastic. He invaded Union territory with an army of 60,000 men. It was a high-risk, high-reward maneuver. En route to destroy a supply depot in Maryland, General Lee's scouts brought him good news. A large Union force was camped at Gettysburg, vulnerable to attack. This was the sort of break that Lee had been hoping for. He marched his entire army of 60,000 soldiers to Gettysburg to obliterate the Union force. The battle begins on the morning of July 1st, 1863. Several assaults by Confederate soldiers were repelled by Union soldiers. But running low on ammunition by 4 p.m., Confederate forces were able to drive the outnumbered Union defenders back through Gettysburg to Cemetery and Culp's Hill, a half-mile south of town. Heavy fighting led to over 10,000 casualties that first day. During the night, additional soldiers arrived to supplement both sides. Union forces have strengthened their position on Cemetery Hill and taken up positions on surrounding hills, Culp's Hill, Powers Hill, and Little Round Top. Against the advice of his defensive-minded second-in-charge, General James Longstreet, General Lee orders attacks on the left and right sides of the Union positions on Cemetery Hill, attempting to dislodge Union soldiers from their defensive position. But first, Lee plans to attack Culp's Hill hard and Little Round Top harder. General Lee ordered General Longstreet to lead an attack on the Union's left, while General Ewell would strike the Union's right near Culp's Hill. Though his orders were to attack as early in the day as possible, Longstreet didn't get his men into position until 4 p.m. When Longstreet attacked, they opened fire on the Union soldiers, commanded by General Daniel Sickles. Over the next several hours, bloody fighting raged along Sickles' line, which stretched from the nest of boulders known as Devil's Den, into a peach orchard, as well as in a nearby wheat field and on the slopes of Little Round Top. Thanks to fierce fighting, the Union soldiers were able to hold Little Round Top, but lost the orchard, the wheat field, and the Devil's Den. General Sickles himself was seriously wounded. Meanwhile, General Ewell sent 5,000 Confederate soldiers charging up Culp's Hill. 1,600 Union soldiers defended their positions. At first, Confederate attacks were repelled, but then one Confederate brigade outflanked the Union soldiers. Being attacked from two different directions, Union soldiers fell back, relinquishing control of Culp's Hill to the Confederates. Both armies suffered extremely heavy losses on July 2nd, with approximately 9,000 casualties on each side. The combined casualty total for these 2 days of fighting came to nearly 35,000, the largest two-day total of the war. On July 3rd, Union soldiers launched a dawn bombardment against Confederate soldiers on Culp's Hill. By 11 a.m., Union soldiers had strengthened their defensive lines and are in a strong position of power. By afternoon, Union forces still hold Cemetery Hill. Morale is high after their courageous defense of multiple flanking assaults. The Confederates, on the other hand, are getting desperate. General Lee decides the best course of action is a direct assault. It's a do-or-die moment for him and the Confederacy. Again, General Lee's second-in-command, General James Longstreet, disagreed with General Lee, so General Pickett takes command of this Hail Mary attack. 15,000 Confederate soldiers attacked 6,500 Union soldiers on Cemetery Hill. The assault took place over 3/4 of a mile of open ground, susceptible to cannon fire the entire time. The ill-fated assault resulted in over 6,000 Confederate casualties and marked the end of the Battle of Gettysburg, as well as Lee's invasion of the North. General Lee was able to lead what was left of his army out of Gettysburg overnight. The Union Army was too weak to pursue the Confederates. After the battle, nearly 7,500 soldiers were hastily buried in shallow graves on the battlefield, while hundreds more died at field hospitals each day. Medicine was woefully inadequate during the Civil War. If a soldier received a head wound or shrapnel, medics would leave the person to die. The best thing that a doctor could do was administer morphine to ease the pain. In order to avoid infections or disease, if a soldier was shot in the arm or leg, surgeons would give them a shot of whiskey and then a stick to bite down on before amputating their arm or leg. Over the course of the entire Civil War, 660,000 soldiers died, but only one-third were killed outright by Union or Confederate soldiers. The rest were killed by infection and disease. Pennsylvania Governor Andrew Curtin worked with Gettysburg attorney David Wills to establish a proper burial ground for the Union dead who had given the last full measure of devotion. Reburial began on October 27, 1863, and continued for 5 months. The remains of 3,300 Confederate soldiers were removed from the battlefield to cemeteries in the South. Soldiers National Cemetery was dedicated on November 19, 1863. President Lincoln's few appropriate remarks at the dedication of the Soldiers National Cemetery became his most famous and inspirational speech, the Gettysburg Address. These are some of the unidentified Union soldiers buried at Soldiers National Cemetery in Gettysburg. Today, this hallowed ground is a final resting place for American veterans from the Civil War through Vietnam. This is looking down from Cemetery Hill today. When we arrived in Gettysburg, I downloaded an app to my cell phone that described the Battle of Gettysburg in great detail. The app guided us to key battlefield locations and highlighted facts that led to the Union's successful defense against Confederate attacks. Granite statues have been positioned along our driving route, recognizing the soldiers, their unit, and the state that each unit had come from. Carol and I will be leaving for our last stop in Pennsylvania on Friday. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and as always, feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching.